indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. As always, we ask that you please note the safety information on the inside of today's agenda cover. Also note that the Commission will act on various matters at today's meeting, which is open to the public. However, since adequate notice and quorums have been made available for the public to participate in these cases before the Commission, there is no opportunity for the public to address the Commission at this public meeting. Before we move on to our first matter, I do want to acknowledge a special guest that we have here with us today. We have a senior from Harrisburg High School that is shadowing the chairman for the day. His name is Kendi Hoffman. He happens to be my great nephew, so everyone be really nice to him. Kendi, just wave your hand. Thank you very much. So the first matter on this morning's agenda is the approval of the minutes for August 29, 2019, and I call upon Commissioner Coleman, who is the editor.
Thank you, Chairman. I've reviewed the minutes of the August 29, 2019 public meeting, and I move that they be approved as submitted.
You have heard the motion from Commissioner Coleman on the approval of the minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Chairman Sweet. Any discussion or further edits? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion passes 4-0. And now we will move on to today's agenda, calling upon our Secretary, Rosemary Chiavetta, to lead us through the agenda.
Good morning, Madam Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Various bureaus and offices have prepared the following agenda for your consideration. Therefore, let us begin on page 1 with the recommendation of Director Monahan and the Bureau of Audits that the Commission release the audit report of the Pennsylvania Electric Company.
Is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Place, second by Vice Chairman Sweet. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 4-0.
Turning to page 2, in matters presented by Director Sophie and the Office of Special Assistants, it is recommended in an omnibus motion that the Commission adopt both items on page 2, beginning with the complaint of Willard and Elspeth Sunstein versus PPL Electric Utilities, and continue to include both items on page 3, ending with the complaint of Tanika Gray versus the Philadelphia Gas Works.
Is there a motion to adopt staff recommendations?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Vice Chairman Sweet, second by Commissioner Coleman. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 4-0.
Turning to page 4, it is recommended that the Commission adopt the proposed opinion and order in the rate case of the Peoples Natural Gas Company.
Is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Place, second by Commissioner Coleman. Any discussion?
So I have a motion on the matter?
Commissioner Place.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, I ask that my motion be placed into the records if I read it in its entirety. For the Commission today are the exceptions of the Office of Small Business Advocate to the recommended decision issued on August 15, 2019, which granted the joint petition for approval of settlement stipulation in the above captioned matter. The partial settlement addresses all issues except one in Peoples Natural Gas Company's proposed distribution base rate increase filing. While I am supportive of the partial settlement in the RD, I believe it to be prudent to require Peoples to record and report on critical elements of the contested issue, their revised line extension policy. Under Peoples' existing line extension policy, the company performs an economic analysis to compare the net present value of a customer's projected future revenue stream to the cost that the company would incur to connect that customer to Peoples' distribution system. If the projected future revenues are greater than the cost, the company would connect that customer with no customer contribution and aid of construction required. However, under the new line extension policy, the company would provide an allowance of 150 feet of main per residential customer without the necessity of performing this economic analysis. Should an eligible customer require more than 150 feet, the customer would be obligated to pay contribution and aid of construction net the 150-foot allowance, either as an upfront payment or through rider MLX. If future customers are connected within the 150 feet allowance, no rate credit, however, would be provided to the originating customer. The Office of Small Business Advocate noted the potential for subsidization of new residential customers under this revised line extension policy. I share this cognizance. Consequently, in order to have timely and granular information to inform any potential future modifications or reforms of this proposed policy, Peoples shall annually record and report at a minimum the following information. 1, the length, capitalized cost, net present value of a customer's projected future revenue stream, and contribution and native construction of each customer connected under this revised policy. 2, the net present value of projected revenue streams of additional customers later connected to facilities constructed under the 150-foot allowance provision, the so-called infill customer value. The company shall file this information annually with the Commission in its annual asset optimization plan until its next filed base rate case or until otherwise modified by this Commission. Therefore, I move that 1, the joint petition for settlement be granted consistent with this motion. 2, the recommended decision issued on August 15, 2019 is approved consistent with this motion. 3, Peoples Natural Gas Company, LLC, shall file the prescribed information regarding its revised line extension policy with the Commission consistent with this motion. And 4, the Office of Special Assistants prepare an opinion and order consistent with this motion. Thank you.
You have heard the motion of Commissioner Place. Is there a second to the motion? I will second the motion. Any discussion on the motion?
Madam Chair.
Vice Chairman Sweet.
Thank you. Just a brief comment. I'm going to vote no on this motion. These kinds of data requests, while seemingly innocuous in isolation, come at a cost. And I'm not convinced that the benefits of this particular data request have been clearly expressed. And there's been really no analysis of what, if any, cost Peoples will incur as a result of collecting this additional data and having it filed annually, nor am I convinced that having it filed annually improves any of our decision-making. I think there are other more cost-effective alternatives to addressing OSBA's concerns than this one. And so while I certainly support the overall settlement in Peoples' rate case, I do want to be recorded as negative on the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Sweet. Any further comments on the motion?
I have a statement on the matter. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Chairman, I also concur with Vice Chairman Sweet's comments. This is something that Pennsylvania has taken a leadership role in encouraging our natural gas distribution companies to extend natural gas service to customers. In fact, we've taken a leadership role nationally as well with our national association and have produced a document that describes best practices, and this is one of those. So I also think it's important to keep in mind the big picture here of what we're trying to accomplish, not just in Pennsylvania, but within the Peoples Service Territory this morning as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Coleman, any further comments on the motion?
I have a statement on the matter.
Commissioner Place.
Madam Secretary, I ask that my statement be placed in the record as if I had read it in its entirety. Before the Commission today, as noted, are the exceptions of the Office of Small Business Advocate to the recommended decision issued on August 15, 2019, which granted the joint petition for approval of settlement stipulation in the above-captioned matter. The settlement addresses all issues, as I noted, with the exception of one, the Peoples Natural Gas Company's proposed distribution base rate increase at this docket. While I'm supportive of the settlement in the RD, as I've noted, I want to encourage Peoples to continue to pursue an energy efficiency and conservation program. The settlement provides that Peoples will petition to withdraw its proposed EE&C plan and convene a stakeholder group with the statutory advocates and Duquesne Light to review any new proposal at least 120 days prior to filing of any proposal. I am not unmindful of the complexities of this proceeding. However, a cost-effective EE&C program has value for the efficient use of natural gas resources with ultimate benefits to Peoples' customers. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Place. Any further comments on the motion? Not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed.
The motion fails for lack of a majority.
And I would like to ensure that my motion is attached to the docket as a statement. Thank you.
On the matter before us as recommended by staff, any further comments or discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion passes 4-0.
It is recommended that the commission adopt the proposed opinion and order in the application of the Pennsylvania American Water Company.
Is there a motion to adopt staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Place, second by Commissioner Coleman. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion passes 4-0.
Turning to page 5, in matters presented by Director Diskin and the Bureau of Technical Utility Services, it is recommended that the commission adopt in an omnibus motion all of the items on page 5, beginning with the application of PPL electric utilities, and continuing to include all of the items on page 6, and both items on page 7, ending with the PUC investigation into the rail crossing on the abandoned line of the Bessemer and Lake Erie Railroad.
Is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendations?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Place, second by Vice Chairman Sweet. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 4-0.
Turning to page 8, it is recommended by Chief Counsel Hicks and the Law Bureau that the commission adopt the proposed order in the petition of ARD Operating LLC.
Is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Coleman, second by Vice Chairman Sweet. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
The motion passes 3-1, noting the dissent of Commissioner Place.
Turning to page 9, and matters presented by Chief A.L.J. Rainey in the Office of Administrative Law Judge. It is recommended in an omnibus motion that the commission adopt both recommended decisions on page 9, beginning with the petition of the Pennsylvania American Water Company, and continuing to include both recommended decisions on page 10, and ending on page 11 with A.L.J. Dunderdale's recommended decision regarding the tariff supplement filed by Columbia Gas of Pennsylvania.
Is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendations?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Coleman, second by Vice Chairman Sweet. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 4-0.
Madam Chairman, that concludes the regular agenda. Turning now to the carry-in agenda. Turning to page 1, it is recommended by the Bureau of Consumer Services that the commission adopt the proposed order regarding the 2019 Universal Service and Energy Conservation Plan filing schedule.
Is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Vice Chairman Sweet, second by Commissioner Coleman. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 4-0.
Turning to page 2 of the carry-in, it is recommended that the commission adopt the proposed order regarding the petition of the Duquesne Light Company.
Is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Coleman, second by Commissioner Place. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 4-0.
It should be noted that the second item, the letter of notification filed by Mid-Atlantic Interstate Transmission, has been postponed until the public meeting of October 24th. And finally, on page 3 of the carry-in, there is the joint motion of you, Madam Chairman, and Commissioner Coleman regarding the implementation of Act 120 of 2018.
So this is the exciting part of the meeting where I get to turn the gavel over to the Vice Chairman to preside.
Thank you. You are recognized.
Thank you. I ask that our joint motion of Commissioner Coleman and I be placed on the record in its entirety as if I read it in its entirety. On October 24, 2018, Governor Wolf signed into law Act 120 of 2018. This new provision of the Public Utility Code establishes a uniform standard under which utilities may seek to replace customer-owned lead service lines and damaged wastewater laterals and recover costs associated with that replacement. While the Commission and Pennsylvania's regulated water utilities have been active in addressing these matters, Act 120 clarified certain legal issues that had been identified during the course of recent cases. Act 120 became effective while the Commission was evaluating a petition by Pennsylvania American Water Company to replace customer-owned lead service lines. The Commission remanded that petition to the Office of Administrative Law Judge to achieve compliance with the new act. The parties in that proceeding filed a joint petition for settlement, which the Commission has acted on today. The parties are to be commended for working through these issues to achieve a settlement. Nevertheless, while it appears that the settlement is compliant with the new act, several issues implicated by Act 120 remain unresolved by the joint settlement and may require a more generic form of guidance for resolution in future proceedings. In fact, the parties acknowledge that additional proceedings to refine lead service line replacement programs may be necessary. Additionally, the parties also agreed that the settlement should not be cited as binding precedent in future Commission proceedings involving Act 120. Given that the joint settlement does not provide for a full resolution of all issues relating to Act 120, we find it appropriate to initiate a new proceeding. To that end, we will direct the Bureau of Technical Utility Services and the Law Bureau to develop recommendations for additional parameters for customer-owned lead service line and damaged wastewater lateral replacement programs, integrating lead service line and damaged wastewater lateral replacement programs into a uniform regulatory approach, thus enhancing regulatory clarity while better serve affected customers, utilities, and the Commission. Will better serve affected customers, utilities, and the Commission. Staff are to convene a working group to gather information and stakeholder input on how the Commission may develop uniform procedures to address customer-owned lead service line and damaged wastewater lateral replacement issues facing regulated utilities throughout the Commonwealth. Our motion today also includes a non-exhaustive list of issues that should be addressed by stakeholders in this working group. This includes items such as the appropriate information to include in Act 120 filings, the best methods for identifying lead service lines in a territory, and the definition of a damaged wastewater lateral. After the completion of the working group process, staff should prepare a written report with recommendations for our consideration by March 31st of 2020. The report should address the issues identified herein and any others that may be identified. The scope of the recommendation should include options for implementation, including orders, policy statements, and rulemakings. Therefore, we move that 1, the Law Bureau prepare an order consistent with this joint motion. 2, staff will transmit the above and any additional directed questions to interested parties within 30 days of the entry of this order. And 3, staff will convene a working group to implement this order and will submit a written recommendation to the Commission by March 31st, 2020.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is there a second to your motion?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor will vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion is carried 4-0, 4-0. And if there's no objection, we'll take the same roll call for the matter as amended. Seeing no objection, the 4-0 vote will be recorded as the final vote. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I'll turn it back over to you, and sorry not to bumble around and cause any excitement today.
Thank
Don't
you.
worry, I'll do worse in the future.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Madam Chairman and Commissioners, that concludes all agenda items to be considered today.
Before we close out, we do want to acknowledge that October is the Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and make some comments. This is the National Cybersecurity Awareness Month, a collaborative effort between government and industry to ensure that consumers have the resources to stay secure online while increasing national resilience against cyber threats. Our utility systems, including electric, natural gas, water, telecommunications, and transportation networks, are keys to keeping our communities safe and productive, which makes them prime targets for bad actors. The theme for this year's cybersecurity campaign is Own It, Secure It, Protect It. The education efforts focus on the role of everyone in online safety and stresses the importance of taking proactive steps to enhance cybersecurity at home and in the workplace. Additionally, I want to underscore the ongoing work being done in Pennsylvania and across the country to address security in the utility sector. In August, we hosted a first ever utility cyber summit here in Harrisburg, bringing together more than 140 professionals from across the country, including cybersecurity and national security experts, along with utility executives, information system leaders, and infrastructure security professionals. The summit highlighted the latest threats directed at critical infrastructure and addressed cybersecurity best practices, cybersecurity resilience planning, and cybersecurity auditing, controls, and risk management. The summit is the latest part of an ongoing effort to help ensure that the Commonwealth's regulated utilities are protected from cyber attacks, guided by the PUC's Director of the Office of Cybersecurity Compliance and Oversight, Michael Holko. As you might remember, that office and the director's position was created last year to advance the PUC's efforts to protect Pennsylvania utility consumers from disruptions to the vital utility system and services. Also this summer, our national organization, NARUC, released a new comprehensive suite of cybersecurity resources to better equip public utility commissions to understand and address this critical issue. The more we are all educated about cyber issues, the better we can safeguard our personal information about our vital systems. So I encourage every Pennsylvanian to take some time this month to think about cybersecurity and review the tips and other materials that we will be connecting to in our PUC press release and social media post about cybersecurity. Thank you very much, and if there's nothing else to come before the commission, I am assuming there's no objection to adjourning. Seeing none, we are adjourned.